Jujutsu Kaisen is a force to be reckoned with. If you haven't heard of Jujutsu Kaisen, chances are you've been living under a rock. The now world-renowned manga series premiered in Weekly Shonen Jump on March 5th, 2018. And since then, it has become a monster in the world of anime and manga. To the point that even well-known celebrities like Usher, Megan Thee Stallion, Bruno Mars, and the Duolingo Owl are talking about it. The Duolingo Owl, people! I mean, that's how you know you've made it. Really though, the sheer success of Jujutsu Kaisen is pretty daunting, and nowhere do I feel this is probably more true than for JJK's author, Gege Akutami. Let's rewind to the mid-2000s. We find a young Gege sitting at home reading an issue of Weekly Shonen Jump that he stole from his older brother. It was here that the young Gege would be exposed to the first manga he would ever read. That manga being Tite Kubo's Bleach. Gege has cited many inspirations for his work, namely Hunter x Hunter and Neon Genesis Evangelion, but Bleach in particular seems to be the one that has nestled into his very soul.
When I was in 4th grade, my older brother would always buy Weekly Shonen Jump. However, he never let me read the issues he bought since he was very possessive of his belongings. One day when he wasn't around, I secretly opened an issue and it happened to be the one Bleach debuted in. The first chapter was so impressive. It made me realize just how incredible mangaka are. I've been hooked ever since.
Gege would continue reading manga throughout his early years, before finally finding himself within Shonen Jump itself. It was here that he would write a one-off manga called Tokyo Metropolitan Curse Technical School, the story of a student named Yuta Okotsu as he finds his place amongst a group of students at Tokyo Prefectural Jujutsu High School. And this probably sounds very familiar to all of you because this story would later be renamed Jujutsu Kaisen 0. That's right, this story starting with Yuta actually came first, kind of making Yuta the original protagonist of JJK, though obviously this would change when Jujutsu Kaisen finally debuted in 2018. From the offset, Jujutsu Kaisen makes it clear that it is a tried and true shonen action manga, and wears its influences on its sleeves for all to see. I mean, when you read the first few chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen, it just screams Bleach. Kid with a relatively ordinary life, goes to school, hangs out with friends, then is suddenly thrust into the realm of the paranormal and otherworldly. I guess you could call it derivative, but at the same time, I really do feel like Jujutsu Kaisen is able to make itself stand out despite its obvious influences. And while Jujutsu Kaisen wasn't a massive breakout phenomenon when it first debuted, it did have fairly good sells, meaning that it had all the potential in the world to do well. And so much of this potential lied in the characters themselves. At this point, it is an honored shonen tradition to put in as many characters into your story as possible. And Jujutsu Kaisen is no exception. The first part of Jujutsu Kaisen's story is dedicated heavily to setting up the world, the narrative, and of course the characters. And since such a good chunk of the story is dedicated to setting things up, this also means that the story has a lot of time to develop and make these characters likable. However, it goes deeper than that, because while many of Jujutsu Kaisen's characters are enjoyable, they're also very distinct from one another. Every character feels like their own unique individual, complete with their own history, beliefs, motives, and personalities. Really, there's a character for any person to get attached to, and they're all developed and fleshed out well enough to where they're easy to get attached to. Something I'm really fond of when it comes to JJK is that despite the fantastical elements of the story, the characters still interact with each other in a way that makes them feel so grounded. Like, just look at the bad guys from the early parts of Jujutsu Kaisen's story. It would be so easy to just put them in some kind of dark, evil lair where they can discuss all of their evil plans. But nah, typically when you see them discussing their plans, they're hanging out at the beach or going on swimming trips or just honest to God playing board games.
All right, Gato, pay up.
What's the matter, Chosa?
Come on.
Like, come on, that's great. So characters are incredibly important for making a manga that people want to read, obviously. And for the most part, this is something JJK does very well, and therefore was able to cultivate a fan base in its early days. However, having a devout fan base and being a massive series that can outsell One Piece are not exactly the same thing. So then what exactly was it that caused JJK's sudden surge of success that it's still experiencing today? 3 words. First season anime. The Jujutsu Kaisen anime is what truly made JJK a household name. Here, let me show you a chart real quick. Credit goes to Josuke on Twitter, who seems to have collected this data from the JJK PR official Twitter account. Links in the description below. Here we can see that as JJK continues on from its debut, it slowly but surely garners more and more readers over time, though its individual physical volume sales seem to stay below 250,000 units sold for most of its early lifespan. However, once we reach the first season in 2020, there is a drastic uptick in sales, and obviously this is for a reason. The first season of Jujutsu Kaisen is about as good of an adaptation as you can honestly ask for, and nowhere is this more apparent than in Jujutsu Kaisen's battles. JJK's battles are no-holds-barred, knife-edge conflicts that explode with ferocity. The best part about Jujutsu Kaisen's fights are just how raw and visceral they can get. And this is amped to 11 when Studio Mappa's animation quality is brought into the picture. The sheer flow and impact that the animation brings to the show's combat is on another level. And no doubt, this is thanks to Season 1's director Sung-Hoo Park, who in general seems to specialize in fast-paced, hard-hitting martial arts combat. It's evident that him and his team worked themselves to the bone on the production of this anime, to the point that apparently they worked so hard that they actually made the entire Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie in just 4 months, which is just, wow, that is a nightmare. Jesus. That's actually not okay at all. And if you want to know more about the dumpster fire that is Mappa Studios, I implore you to watch our video on it. It's really not okay what they're doing over there. Anyway. All right, we understand that a lot of likable characters, cool fights, and an awesome anime adaptation are a winning formula for a hit series. Clearly, but I feel like a lot of this is just momentum. Building blocks that you use to get people on board. You can't just ride the wave of initial excitement and success and not expect it to die down at some point. So with this in mind, there has to be a good reason why Jujutsu Kaisen seems to just exist in a constant state of never-ending virality, right? And yeah, there is. Spoilers for JJK from here on. We've established that Gege is no slouch at giving people likable characters that they can grow fond of and maybe even see themselves in. That much is apparent. But there's another side of Gege Akutami. A much darker side. Yes, he's capable of giving these things to people, but he's also capable of taking them away. When the Shibuya Incident Arc of Jujutsu Kaisen's anime aired in 2023, I believe this is where JJK became the monstrous pop culture beast that it is. The Shibuya Incident serves as a massive story shift for Jujutsu Kaisen's narrative. The main villain, who turns out to not even be who we thought he was, successfully begins the next phase of his plan. And in the fallout, the characters we had been following this entire time are devastated. They're maimed, traumatized, and even killed. And honestly, watching all of this unfold was shocking. But when you watch it, you begin to understand Gege's philosophy when it comes to writing manga. When he was asked about killing off fan favorite character Kento Nanami, Gege had this to say.
To be honest, honest, I like Nanami as a character, and he is easy to work on. But in terms of his role in the story and the development of the characters, I had no choice after all.
Gege understands that his characters are tools that can be used to not only invest his readers, but devastate them as well. It's one thing to have a quality story and characters, but when you are constantly shaking up the story in massive ways that pushes your characters to their very limits, it's no wonder that an anime like this is going to constantly be talked about on social media. Even if some people are beginning to think that killing off so many characters has reached the point that it's detrimental to the story, it doesn't change the fact that people are still constantly talking about it and posting leaks for the newest manga chapters to see the next insane thing that happens. Shibuya was the genesis for all of this. And this is what led to Jujutsu Kaisen's modern day dominance in the anime industry, to the point that Jujutsu Kaisen was just awarded the Guinness World Record for most in-demand animated TV show, and would even sweep the Crunchyroll Anime Awards and be crowned Anime of the Year, which is insane because this isn't even for Shibuya. It's for the Hidden Inventory arc, which, yeah, Hidden Inventory is great, but it's like only 5 episodes in comparison to all of these other full seasons of anime. But that's just the power of Jujutsu Kaisen at this point. It's, well, a force to be reckoned with. And there's one more thing I need to talk about. One more element of Jujutsu Kaisen that I feel embodies everything we've talked about today. And that one element is a certain character. A character that I feel takes everything that works about Jujutsu Kaisen and amps it up to 11. Satoru Gojo is a phenomenon in and of himself. Like I said, he encapsulates everything about Jujutsu Kaisen and brings it to an unprecedented level. If we were to look at everything that we've talked about and turn it into a mathematical formula to calculate Jujutsu Kaisen's success, Gojo would serve as a multiplier that only makes that success even bigger. He's an incredibly cool, funny, and likable character who's basically just that one teacher from your high school all the students loved. If that teacher just so happened to also basically have untouchable godlike powers. And all of this just feeds further into Jujutsu Kaisen's ever-growing viral status. Gojo is always compared to other incredibly strong anime characters, with fans always debating on who would win. I'm not going to get into all the mathematics and science and stuff about how Gojo's infinity powers work, but it's prime material for online power scaling arguments. Gojo is basically untouchable, which is why when he dies, it's the biggest shock in the world. Gojo dying was a huge deal. There was even a memorial set up for Gojo in Chile after he died. People were straight up mourning him. And it makes sense because he was such a beloved character. But this also just fueled further discussion. Some thinking that he's dead for real, while others think he's gonna return. And no matter what side you fall into, it all still feeds back into an infinite loop of people constantly talking about Jujutsu Kaisen. And look, love it or hate it, you can't deny that Jujutsu Kaisen has buried its way into the pop culture zeitgeist. And to me, Gojo is like the ultimate weapon. The story doesn't overuse him, but when it does use him, it knows the best way to do it to get everyone talking. There are so many elements that have gone into making Jujutsu Kaisen the smash hit that it is, but I truly believe that Gojo is the secret sauce, the character responsible for the rise of Jujutsu Kaisen. But I want to hear what you guys think. Do you love Jujutsu Kaisen and think it deserves all the hype that it's gotten? Or do you hate it and cringe anytime you see it on your timeline? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for watching. And if you want to see more, don't forget to check out our video about the Mappa controversy. I think that it's really important that people are aware of that entire situation, especially if you like Jujutsu Kaisen. Until next time, guys, I'll see you around.